Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from Yahuwah the Father and Yahusha the Messiah, his Son. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our mighty one is one Yahuwah. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you the laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments of Yahuwah. And we're starting from Deuteronomy chapter 24. Aren't these laws, statutes, and commandments awesome? Hey, we have not had our own culture for thousands of years. We have not had our own laws to govern us by for thousands of years. The only thing that we're used to is European law. They've been ruling for these thousands of years that we have been evicted from the kingdom. We're just discovering how the Father wants us to live. I mean, it may seem, how would you say, different? Totally different? But the Father wants us to return back to the old ways, which is the good way, so that you may find rest for your soul. The only rest that you're going to find is in these commandments. Let me just speak about something we just read about in chapter 23. The vineyard, the cornfield. Isn't that different than anything you've ever heard of in your life? Here it is, you have a possession, and that all of your brothers, your sisters, the widows, the orphans, the fatherless are allowed to go into your field and eat to their fill. Do you know what this means? Just think about it. If the Father says that this can happen in your fields, just think of the vastness of your vineyards, of your cornfields. Think of all of the goodly trees that he's going to give you. That is true wealth, brothers and sisters. Money, that paper that we get every day, is not wealth. Gold is not wealth. You can't eat the gold. You can't eat the silver. You can't eat the paper, but you can eat the fruit that comes from the vine. This is what the Father wants to give you. True wealth. What else is true wealth? He's going to give you strangers. He's going to give you people. He's going to add them to you. True wealth. Not money, not gold, not silver. He's going to give you that too. Because you're going to be far more wealthy than any nation upon this earth, because he says the gold and the silver is mine. The cattle on 1,000 hills belongs to Yahuwah. So what belongs to him belongs to us, because we are the heirs to his kingdom. The only thing you have to do is overcome. Overcome what, Brother David? This world. This is why we're going through this exercise, so that you will know how to overcome. Remember, everything that you can apply now, apply it. You can't really carry out these judgments, but you can apply all of the rest. When we go into the kingdom, that is when judgments will be carried out. Let's begin. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 1 to 4. Verse 1. When a man have taken a wife and married her, that means he has gone into her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he have found some uncleanliness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. It could be something as simple as that she has some type of vaginal odor. That's the uncleanliness that he found in her, and he doesn't want her anymore. Verse 2. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife, because he gave her a bill of divorcement. He has placed it in her hand. Verse 3. And if the latter husband hate her, her next husband, and write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand. Now, if this has happened twice, she really must have a serious problem, right? And sendeth her out of his house, or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife. Verse 4. Her former husband, which first sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. After that, she is defiled. For that is an abomination before Yahuwah. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which Yahuwah thy mighty one giveth thee for an inheritance. We have seen this played out over and over and over again on Witchcraft Tube. You know, your television. You see these LMN, Lifetime Movie Network. I know the women love to watch that one. And, you know, the wife, she goes and she divorces her husband. Note, the wife does not have the ability to give the husband a bill of divorcement. She can't do that. Only the husband can divorce the wife. Have you seen that? Next, in America, the wife can divorce the husband. Husband can divorce the wife. And then they go out and they have multiple sexual partners, may even get married again. A few years down the road, they leave that partner. Then they come back and their eyes meet again and love strikes and they say, oh, we're going to get married again. You've seen this play out in these movies that they have here in America. That is an abomination unto Yahuwah. He said that she is defiled. She cannot go back to the first husband. What happens here in America will not happen into the kingdom. This is why we're going through this. The behaviors that you've learned here, we can't do that in the kingdom. It'll be totally different. We're living in the matrix right now. That's why these laws, statutes, commandments, judgments that Yahuwah is giving us seems a little strange, but you will get used to them. After the first few 100 years of following them, they'll be like going to the bathroom. That's how easy it'll be for you, because this will be a part of your life. Verse 5. When a man have taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife which he have taken. Now this is the term that I'm going to use with my wife. Come over here, baby. Let me cheer you up. But you all know what that means. He's supposed to bring forth an heir in this year's time. Verse 6, no man shall take the nether or the upper millstone to pledge, for he taketh a man's life to pledge. The nether and the upper millstone, it's like a rock plate, and then you have that wheel. It's pretty much heavy. And what you do is you grind the corn, and you make the meal, corn meal, so that you can make your bread. Hey, we was even eating cornbread in the kingdom, brothers and sisters. Come on. There's nothing new under the sun. Verse 7. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren, of the children of Yasharal, and maketh merchandise out of him, or selleth him, then that thief shall die, and thou shalt put away from among you the evil. Man, kill him. He is stealing your brothers and selling them out as slaves. Do you know that in Africa, before we were brought here, even our own kingdoms, our kings, and those who had rule over us, some of them, They made merchandise out of us. They sold us to the Europeans. They had no idea that it was going to be as cruel as it was for us. They thought that maybe it would be just like the way they treated us. But they found out later on that it was cruel. Now they want us to return. But the thing is that you cannot sell your brother. There's no prohibition against you selling someone else. He says you cannot sell your brethren of the children of Yasharal. He makes it plain there. And you can't make merchandise out of him, nor can you sell him. And if you do so, you are considered a thief, and the penalty is death. Verse 8. Take heed in the plague of leprosy, that thou observe diligently and do according to all that the priests, the Levites, shall teach you. As I commanded them, so ye shall observe to do. Now, leprosy has been twisted in the Americas. Biblical leprosy and modern leprosy is totally two different things. Biblical leprosy is what we're talking about here. In biblical leprosy, your skin turns white. Do you understand? If your skin turns white, it is a curse. White skin is not a blessing. Our brothers and our sisters are bleaching themselves, trying to look like the Europeans. They want to look like those who are cursed, whom the melanin has been stripped from them. Let me prove to you it's a curse. Look at verse 9. Remember what Yahuwah thy mighty one did unto Miriam, by the way? After that ye were come forth out of Egypt? What did Yahuwah do unto Miriam? She spoke against Moses because he married that Ethiopian woman. The father heard it, and he cursed Miriam with a leprous condition. What happened? The Bible said that her skin turned white as snow. When the rest of the Israelites saw her, she had to be put out the camp for 7 days because she is unclean. Moses interceded on her behalf. Moses is always interceding on behalf of someone. This is exactly what our Mashiach is doing for us today. And then she was cleansed, her color returned, and she was able to enter back into the camp. This alone is proof, brothers and sisters, that the Israelites were not white people. They were black, because they were in fear when they saw this whiteness that came upon Miriam. Verse 10. When thou dost lend thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge. So you don't have the right to enter into his gates to go get the pledge. But what do you have to do? Verse 11, thou shalt stand abroad, and the man to whom thou dost lend shall bring out the pledge abroad unto thee. He has to bring it out to you. You can't go in and get it. Verse 12, and if the man be poor, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge. So if you have his pledge, the pledge really is collateral. If you have his pledge, the guy is poor, he's paid back whatever it is, you give him back his pledge because you can't sleep with it. The sun goes down, you have to give it to him. Verse 13, I'm moving too fast. If in any case thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep in his own raiment and bless thee. Do you know that you could use your raiment as collateral? You've been seeing it a few times, right? This must be some bad clothes, man. The Israelites had some really high-power clothing. The women would sit there and they would sew and sew and sew for hours, and they would make these beautiful garments. They were so beautiful that you could use them as collateral. And it shall be righteousness unto thee before Yahuwah thy mighty one, if you have returned their pledge before the sun goes down. Verse 14, thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy strangers that are in thy land within thy gates. Oppression is not, you cannot have this oppressive behavior in the kingdom. You can't. Even the stranger, you can't oppress him. You have to treat him like one that is born amongst you. Look at this. Verse 15. At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it. For he is poor, and setteth his heart upon it, lest he cry unto Yahuwah, and it be sent unto thee. Wow. You see, this is not America, is it? When you get a new job, what do you have to work? I've heard you have to work 2 or 3 weeks before you can get your first paycheck, right? It's not going to be that way in the kingdom. When the sun goes down, you have to have your paycheck in your hand. Because this person is poor. He set his heart upon it. He may be feeding his family with it. So you pay the people who are going to work for you by the day, not by the week or the month or every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks. This is the Father's rules and regulations, different from America. Verse 16. The fathers shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. Praise Yahweh. Praise Yahuwah, the mighty one, the master of the universe. Because if we were to be put to death for our children, there would be none of us left of the children of Yasharal. Because these children are far more stiff-necked and unmovable than their forefathers. The Father says, every man shall be put to death for his own sins. Verse 17. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. Don't pervert. Don't twist it. Don't try to add to or take away from the judgment of the stranger, or the fatherless, or the widow. And don't you take her raiment to pledge. You can't do certain things. The Father protects these people. And in his law, if the widow needs to borrow from you, you can't take her raiment as collateral. Verse 18, but thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in Egypt, and Yahuwah thy mighty one redeemed thee thence. Therefore I command thee to do this thing. All of that we've just came through, he's commanding you to do this. You have to change your mind, your thinking, and line yourself up according to the ways of the Mighty One. When I go out into the world, because I know this so well, I see nothing but wickedness. When I cry out to my Father, and I see that really there's not much that I can do, except for the few of you who love him with all of your heart, mind, and soul, who really want to learn about these things. You are my assignment. I have to teach you. I've asked him, what is it that you want for me to do? He says, feed my flock. And that is what I shall do for all the days of my life. Verse 19. When thou cuttest thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go back to fetch it. It shall be for who? The stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. that Yahweh thy mighty one may bless thee in all the work of thine hands. Don't take everything from the harvest. Leave some gleanings for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat also and share in the joy of your harvest. Who's going to bless you if you do this? Yahuwah. Verse 20. When thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. Now, I understand this one very well. I was born in Florida, and when we were young, before we went to New York, we had this big mango tree in our backyard. I mean, full of mangoes, big mangoes. And we used to take a stick and throw it up in the tree, and when it hit that limb that had the mangoes on it, they would come raining down. And we would eat them and sell them on the side of the road. Listen what the Father is saying. Don't take that stick and throw it back up in the tree a second time on that same branch to get the rest of them that's there. You can only beat it once. You are to leave the rest for who? The stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. Everyone shall eat and be full. Verse 21. When thou gatherest the grapes of the vineyard, thou shalt not glean it afterward. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and the widow. So all the grapes that fall to the ground, the bunches that fall to the ground, don't you pick them up. Leave that for the widow, the fatherless, and the stranger. My mother told me a story about her mother. And she said that her mother won a lot of awards in her county for canner of the year. You know, she would take the preserves and put them in those little jars and put the rubber band around the top of it and preserve them. And she won because her preserves were top of the line. This is what they were doing in the kingdom. Even though it's a lost art now, it shall come back again. When they come to glean these fields, let's say from the beginning is the grain, then you have your olive trees and whatever other trees, and then you have your grapes. They can make preserves and they can store up the grain for hard times until the next harvest. The Father has made provision for everyone. No one goes hungry in the kingdom. This is not America, where if you don't have no money, you can't eat. No. Doesn't work that way. Verse 22. I want you to remember that thou was a bondman in the land of Egypt. We never remember these things. We always forget, right? Therefore I command thee to do this thing. This is a commandment. Everything that you heard, he's commanding you to do this. Now let's change that around. Verse 22 again. And thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in America, where you had to keep these foolish behaviors, where your children went hungry. It won't be that way in the kingdom. Don't carry yourself like you have done in the house of bondage. Continue to chapter 25. Shalom.